Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurul Natasha binti Muhammad Azmi. My metric number 1233253. Today, I will be presenting on a crucial topic under my course. My presentation is titled The Order Ordered Contribution and Critics on the Textual Chronology of the Quran. Let's begin with an introduction to understand exactly who the Order was and why he is the chosen subject of this study. Theodor was a prominent 19th century German Orientalist scholar. He is widely recognized as a pioneer who brought the critical historical method to the study of the Quran in the Western world. But why did I choose him? The answer lies in his masterpiece, Gauchos the Quran, which translates to the history of the Quran. The specific text is incredibly significant because it serves as the foundational standard text and the ultimate blueprint for Western Orientalists studying the Quranic text even to this day. To truly understand his work, we must look at his biographical background. In 1836, Theodor was born in Heilbronn, Germany. From a very young age, under his father's guidance, he began studying classical literature, Greek and Latin. In 1856, at the remarkably young age of just 20, he obtained his PhD from the University of Göttingen. His early thesis already focused on the history of the Quran. To achieve this, he mastered multiple Semitic languages including Arabic, Syrian, Hebrew, and Persian. From 1872 to 1920, he built his career as a full professor of Semitic language at the University of Strasbourg, where he trained a whole generation of future Orientalist scholars. Finally, in 1930, he passed away on April 3rd in Karlsruhe, Germany, leaving behind a massive and lasting legacy on how Islamic studies are viewed in the Western world. Now, let's look at his major publication. As mentioned earlier, his definitive work is The History of the Quran, first published in 1860. The core content and purpose of his book was to study the origin of the Quran, the history of its textual composition, and the various readings known as qira'at. He did this strictly by utilizing modern literary criticism and textual historical method. The impact of this book was monumental in the West. It won a prestigious award in France and was hailed as fundamental by Western scholars because it successfully established a dominant framework for analyzing the timeline of the Quran's revelation from an Orientalist worldview. First, Theodor offered a criticism of the traditional textual arrangement. He claimed that the arrangement of the Quranic surahs in the existing Usmani manuscript does not follow the correct chronological order of revelation. Because of this, he argued that the Quranic text appeared disorganized in its literary narrative. To fix this, he rejected the traditional Islamic chronology and proposed his own theory of a fourth phase divisions, arranging the 114 surahs based on his own linguistic, philological analysis and history events. Phase 1 is the early Meccan phase, consisting of 48 surahs, which he described as short, poetic, and emotional verses dealing with monotheism. Phase 2 in the middle Meccan phase with 21 surahs, where verses begin to lengthen and introduce the name Al-Rahman and story of the prophets. Phase 3 is the late Meccan phase, also 21 surahs, characteristic by long prose version emphasizing basic legal aspects. Phase 4 is the Medinan phase, containing 24 surahs, focusing on community building, civil law, and Islamic politics. Beyond this structured regimen, Nodal also had a highly controversial view on revelation. He viewed Prophet Muhammad (SAW) as having a nervous temperament and claims that the Prophet experienced his own psychological shadow or vision when receiving revelation rather than receiving an absolute literal verbal revelation from the angel Jibril. Now, let us analyze and counter this argument from an Islamic academic perspective. First and foremost, the traditional order is Tawfiqi. As Muslims, we firmly believe that the order of the verses and surahs of the Quran is determined by Tawfiqi, meaning it was a direct revelation from Allah through an angel Jibril to the Prophet rather than being arranged randomly by the companions. Secondly, we must highlight the weaknesses of Nodal's methodology. His framework relies almost entirely on internal evidence, especially the literary style of the text. This is highly subjective. The dynamic, divine literature of the Quran cannot be measured accurately by a rigid linear theory of human language evolution. Lastly, we counter this with the strengths of Asbab al-Nuzul, the true chronology of the Quranic verses in Islam is scientifically proven through the systematic knowledge of Asbab al-Nuzul, the reason for revelation, and authentic hadith narration, not through modern literary conjecture of speculation. To conclude my presentation today, let's look at the summary and recommendation. For summary, Nodal's attempt to restructure the Quran is deeply flawed because it strips away divine revelation and disregards established historical Islamic transmissions. For the recommendation, I highly recommend that Muslim students deepen their mastery of traditional ulum al-Quran, such as the history of Jam'ul Quran, so that we can address and refute Orientalist critics with academic confidence and intellectual maturity. Thank you. That's all from me.